On the first night, I spotted a couple, probably early 70s, sitting in the Grand Plaza on Celebrity Edge, looking a bit startled with what they saw going on around them. It wasn't their familiar celebrity cruises. I also realized over the next couple of days that I was now amongst the eldest onboard celebrity, unlike past trips. They even had baby change toilets appearing, teens taking over deck parties and the pools, and the guest entertainer performance by the old cruise standard, the Barricade Boys, singing their standard Old Show and Frankie Valli songs, were almost empty when they performed, while the family-friendly pop music review show with acrobats like Kaleidoscope was always packed on those nights. When the cabin controls on my app failed and I had to try and switch on the lights and open and close the curtains in my cabin manually, I also realized that on Celebrity Edge that if you were not a smartphone user, simple tasks like that you would struggle with because it's all now designed to be done on the phone. I'm Gary Bembridge. Welcome aboard as I look at Celebrity and ask if they've fallen out of love with and don't want passengers like me on board anymore. So while my experiences were definitely magnified by going on Celebrity Edge during the school summer vacation, I feel we're seeing the emergence of a two-type cruise line within Celebrity. First of all, there's a more traditional experience on the older Solstice and Millennium class ships. These are traditional ships in terms of layout, venues, and experience. It's pretty much an old school cruise ship experience with a more modern spin to it. So more contemporary music, for example, in the shows. Activities scheduled much later at night. There's more parties. Something that classic cruisers will feel more familiar and comfortable with, just with a slightly more modern spin. Then there is the new direction, the future. This is the Edge class with Edge, Apex, Beyond, and Ascent. Now, I was asked, for example, recently on my live stream, just after the trip that I was on, what was different on Edge versus Solstice class ships? My answer was pretty much everything is different. First of all, it looks completely different from the outside. The shape and the hull is very different. They've introduced the magic carpet, which is both a bit of a gimmick, but also importantly, a practical solution to tendering. It means they can tender many people much quicker off the ship by lowering the magic carpet and using much bigger tenders. Next, dining has also totally changed. They follow the Silversea and Virgin Voyages approach of scrapping the main dining room, which traditional cruisers of course are used to and many of them like. But now what happens is you rotate on the Edge class between four restaurants: Cosmopolitan, more traditional; Normandy, more French; Cyprus, more Mediterranean; and Tuscan, a little bit more Italian. They still, of course, have the big buffet restaurant upstairs. They've also scrapped the specialty venues you find on Solstice class ships completely, replacing them with totally new venues. So while on Solstice class, you've got Sushi on 5, you've got Tuscan Grill, an Italian steakhouse; Murano, the French bistro; Silk Harvest, the Asian fusion. On Edge, it's all different. You've got Fine Cut Steakhouse, the Grand Bistro, which is French, where they also do the little Le Petit Chef, the interactive 3D table thing. You have Raw on 5, which is more than just a sushi restaurant. They also have Eden, which is a big venue with more avant-garde dishes for dining, as well as running quirky shows. A really big and divisive change, especially with more traditional cruisers used to traditional balconies on Millennium and Solstice class, is they've replaced balcony cabins on Edge class with what they call infinite balconies. Now, while they argue these cabins are 20% bigger, basically you lose the balcony and you have a sliding window with some seating inside. They've added big spaces for active, crowd-pleasing, high-energy activities like the club, which has replaced Celebrity Central on Solstice. This is a two-level venue hosting high-energy activities and quizzes and some quirky cabaret, more akin to what I've actually seen on the trendy line Virgin Voyages. The theatre is a big, high-tech one with big projection screens. Outdoor is also much more focused around, and in some ways I feel like posing, being seen, people watching, socializing. So you've got a big pool resort deck with a massive, big pool. The Lawn Club on Solstice class ships has been replaced with a rooftop garden, which has a grill, a sunset bar behind that at the back. They've also got one of the longest and best running tracks, which weaves its way through the resort deck. So again, you can be watched while you're running. As I mentioned, there are those other changes like baby changing toilets, bigger kids clubs, and other more family-friendly things. On the Edge class, The daily program looks and reads very similar to the Solstice ships, but it's even more youthful, interactive, louder, and I would argue much more energetic. So for example, the 80s quiz has the teams doing dance-off, air guitar band battles. The passengers versus officers challenge was loud, noisy, boisterous. The deck party was really rowdy, really big, and very kind of interactive. The other thing I noticed is Celebrity are using younger people and families in their ads and in their onboard materials, like the excursion videos had more families in, and they're definitely adopting and promoting more issues that I think appeal to kind of a younger crowd. So for example, the ship Godmothers, they have Malala for Edge, who of course became extremely well known for being injured by the Taliban and for promoting women in education. Rashima Sajani for Apex, who is the founder of the Girls Who Code to really push and improve women in tech. Simone Biles for Beyond, the well-known US gymnast who was very public on mental health issues during the Tokyo Olympics. They make a big issue of crew diversity, which in reality is mostly focused on women in senior roles, including of course Captain Kate, the first North American woman captain, who is their sort of their face and their social media ambassador. I also saw a very different experience on Edge with dress code. Even though they were still chic nights, few people bothered. Now, my previous trips on Celebrity Solstice and Silhouette, guests absolutely did dress up more. But again, this was because it was full of more traditional cruises, and on Edge, it was only really those traditional cruisers amongst the guests that did actually bother to really get dressed up much more. So all these factors mean that Edge class ships are without a shadow of a doubt in my mind attracting to Celebrity a younger and more family group of cruisers, certainly on those ships. Less so on the other class of ships than what I've seen so far. Now this revelation of what's happening is strengthened by how I actually held back on booking an Edge class ship, but would book a Solstice class ship on a trip we're planning. So my partner Mark and I are looking at taking his mum to Australia, a place that she's always wanted to go. Celebrity Edge is going to be in Australia and would be an easy way for us to explore the region much more. But after being on Edge, I decided there's no way that I would take her on Celebrity Edge. It's too modern. The infinite balcony would absolutely alienate her. She doesn't use a smartphone, so controlling things in her cabin and booking things on the app would definitely be an issue. It would be a no-go, in fact. She would also miss the whole sense of dressing up more than she would do on the other classes. If there was a Solstice or Millennium class ship, I would book it because I do believe that not only will it attract a more classic cruiser, have the guests to match, and would be a better fit for people who want a traditional experience, like if you were taking Sally. There is one other big development at Celebrity that appeals to me, but is driving a lot of people away, and it's affecting also, though, some of my other plans, as I'll explain after I told you what this whole issue is. Celebrity absolutely wants to become a luxury line, not just seen as a premium line. So in the premium category that they're officially classified in, you've got things like P&O Cruises UK, Princess, Holland America, and Virgin Voyages, all with similar experience and pricing until now. Celebrity have increased their prices above those other lines, and many people tell me they're now looking for alternatives because they feel it's getting just too costly. Celebrity now calls themselves, in all their marketing materials, a luxury line, and they call their ships online, and in fact in the various advertising they did on board, as luxury cruise ships, and the fare reflects this. Fare changes were driven, I think, by two key reasons. First of all, to be more like luxury lines, they went more all-inclusive, with their always included fares, which include gratuities, standard drinks package, and regular Wi-Fi. This was always going to be their only fare, but I've seen now when you're booking, they've quietly reintroduced a cruise-only fare, I guess because they're seeing quite a lot of pushback still to those sort of prices. The second reason is, of course, they want to signal that they are a luxury line, but where is all that fare money going, and how are they doing on that positioning as a luxury line? In my view, the decor has significantly gone plusher on the Edge class ships, but also with the refits that they're doing and have done on the older Solstice and Millennium class ships. You can see the impact of the designer Kelly Hoppen and others they worked with as the ships feel and look more luxurious. The soft furnishings, the bed linen, the towels, they're all up in quality from what I remember. The food across the ship is much improved, and I found it excellent across all of the venues. The style and the flair of the presentation, as well as the taste, looks very premium. There are also little touches that show luxury. For example, I don't drink alcohol or caffeine. I drink caffeine-free Diet Coke. Now, on some of their close competing lines I was on recently, like Princess, they don't stock it at all. On Celebrity, not only did they have it, but any bar I went to often or places I went to often, they started to make sure it was always there. Service was high, even though gratuities are now included. But what I did find interesting is the crew were now much more interested in me mentioning their names in the post-cruise survey, and also on what ratings I was going to give for the overall experience in the venue as well as for the service. And when I was discussing this with my waiter in the restaurant, the Lumini, he was saying that the most important score for them now on that survey is the overall experience in there, not just the service. And then, of course, having their name mentioned. So Celebrity seems to be making passenger scores for service and experience essential to cruise performance, reviews, and incentives. Another touch that I'd sort of see typical of luxury cruise lines. Another touch I normally see on ultra luxury lines was here as well. In the daily program from the very first day was a QR code and a contact encouraging us to submit issues or things we wanted sorted or improved direct to the hotel director to ensure it was taken care of. Across the ship there are high-end brands, Apple, Cartier, Bulgari and Tiffany. They have Peloton bikes in the fitness center. There's a real sense of upping that whole sense of luxury. They've also upped the premium side of the line with a class-based system, fairly like you see on Cunard, where based on what grade of cabin you're cruising in determines what restaurant you eat in. So if you're booked in an inside, an ocean view or balcony cabin, you eat in one of those 4 restaurants that I was talking about earlier. If you're in an aqua class, you eat in the Blue restaurant. If you're in a suite, what they call the Retreat, you eat in the Lumini restaurant. The Retreat has many other unique features. So for example, I had the suite, a butler, the Lumini restaurant, a lounge with concierges to help me make arrangements, a large deck with a pool, hot tubs, bar, and I could eat lunch out there. I had priority boarding, disembarking, tendering, and I even had reserved seating on chic nights in the theatre. They really have elevated that whole suite luxury experience and beyond what the other competitive lines are doing. Now, people, by the way, not traveling in the Retreat did get a little bit miffed because the exclusive Retreat spaces do actually take up quite a lot of space on the ship. Celebrity does, in my mind, feel more luxurious than when I've been on Holland America, Princess, P&O Cruises UK, and Virgin Voyages. So I realized that it has become a good alternative when I want to go luxury without the cost of those ultra luxury lines like Seabourn, Silversea. Of course, I don't get the small ship experience, but that Retreat itself is a really, really wonderful experience. Now, my partner Mark is a big fan of Cunard Queen's Grill, but I want to change a future Cunard plan that we've got into a Celebrity Retreat trip because it's more contemporary and the lounge, the deck and the perks, I think, are much better than the Cunard equivalents, although Cunard Queen's Grill probably still pips them a little bit on the menu. If after hearing all of this Celebrity doesn't appeal to you and you crave a more classic experience, watch this video where I blow apart some of the myths that people have about Holland America, starting with the one that talks about it being stuffy and old-fashioned. See you over there.